Well, now that the football season seems to be in full swing, we're just waiting on one more thing, Stewart Robson, and that is the Champions League draw, that is. It is this week, Stu, and plenty of talking points. I just want to get what you're feeling for the next upcoming season. Of course, starting with the top contenders, because there is the usual suspects. I'm talking about the Real Madrids, the Barcelonas, the Juventuses, the Bayern Munichs, maybe. We'll get to them in a bit, but let's talk about the English teams, because I feel like finally, last season, with Spurs and Liverpool getting to the final, they got the respect that they deserved, and because they have been kind of the laughing stock in the past. So do you pick that to continue this season?
I think so. I think it always goes in cycles. English teams dominated in the 80s. Then we had two teams in the final, Manchester United against Chelsea. We had it last season. And I think just at the moment, the competition is so great in the Premier League between those, particularly the top two, but also the teams just below them. I think the English teams at the moment are prepared to do really well in the Champions League. They've got big squads, so they can rotate when they need to. I think the managers are all looking at the Champions League now. I think one or two might even prioritise, although they wouldn't say it. I think Man City could be prioritising the Champions League, or certainly Pep Guardiola. Pep Guardiola could be looking at it. I'm not sure the Man City fans are quite so keen, but I think Man City could be looking at the Champions League. They want to win it this season.
Where does that leave Liverpool then? I know they've definitely been there and done that, but the Liverpool faithful have been holding on to that Champions League victory as something big right now. And so far, I mean, we're about 2 weekends into the Premier League right now, and it is definitely looking like Liverpool will be the ones that will still be trying to play catch up with Manchester City, despite their current position in the table, which puts them above City. But how do you see it then?
See, I don't think it matters what goes on in the Premier League. We look at the Champions League. Who are the best sides? At the moment, I think Man City are the best side in Europe in terms of the way they play, their creativity, their invention. They've got the best manager in Europe, no question about that, in my view.
And their squad depth as well.
And they've got great squad depth, but it's the manager that makes them the team that they are in terms of his understanding, the way he's inventive, the way he wants his team to play. So that's why they remain, to me, the favourites. Liverpool are getting better under Klopp. They've had 2 or 3 seasons of Klopp now where they know exactly what they're trying to do. They've got better players in. They've got slightly more players, better players in their squad. So they're going to be right up there. And then when you look at some of the other big teams in Europe, they're in maybe transition. They're not playing particularly well. There's not the dominance that they were having at one point. So that's why I would still say Liverpool and Man City, they're the favourites for the Champions League.
Ooh, some big claims there, Stu. And let's talk about, of course, the other teams now that once before used to be the guaranteed winners, or many would believe they're the guaranteed winners, and basically Real Madrid, Barcelona, Juventus there, of course. They did get Cristiano Ronaldo for it. He does look, in fine nick as he usually does at Juventus. So let me just start there. Could this be a good year, or at least a better year in the Champions League for Juventus?
Well, Juventus have got a good squad of players. Sarri, unfortunately, is ill at the moment, so he's not taking the team, but you've got De Ligt coming in, although he didn't play at the weekend. Bonucci and Chiellini were the centre-backs. There was nothing really new about Juventus. Rabiot didn't play. Ramsey's not fit at the moment. Dybala and Mandzukic don't look as though they've got a future at the club. So Higuain, the player that they let go to AC Milan, is back in the centre-forward role.
And back with a bang.
So Douglas Costa, who couldn't get in the team a lot last year, was playing. So although they've got a much bigger squad, at the moment it doesn't look as though those players are coming to the fore. I hope that De Ligt will come in and take probably the place of Bonucci and be a top-class player and make Juventus that little bit better. But there's still something just missing with Juventus to make them Champions League favourites, I would say. I think they're maybe 3rd or 4th favourites. And then you mentioned Real Madrid. Real Madrid, I think, have got big problems to a certain degree. They played much better at the weekend. But Zidane has got a couple of players in there that he doesn't really want. Some of the other players may be stale or aging. There were suggestions of that maybe 2 years ago when they were in when they won the Champions League, because there was a couple of games where they were outplayed by Bayern Munich. They were 3-0 up against Juventus and allowed Juventus to get back into the game at home. So I think Real Madrid I think it's going to be a struggle for them. Barcelona have got their problems.
Yes.
And they have had their problems in the Champions League of late. They did well in La Liga, winning it last season, but they haven't started this season particularly well, losing their first game. They got a good 5-2 win at the weekend. Lionel Messi not fit. Those two teams, I don't think are at their greatest powers. And Bayern Munich, likewise, I don't think the hierarchy at Bayern Munich are still convinced about Niko Kovac as the coach.
But they're excited that Philippe Coutinho is there now as well.
Yeah, and he needs to play better than he did at Barcelona.
Yes.
I'm not sure what went wrong at Barcelona, but he certainly wasn't the Coutinho that we saw at Liverpool, the Coutinho we've seen play for Brazil. So they're a side that can cause problems, but they're not the side they were under Pep Guardiola, in my view. When they had Pep Guardiola as their manager, they should have won the Champions League. They didn't, and now it's going to be a struggle for them.
Okay, so your favourite's Manchester City on this one, of course, and that goes down to just the brilliance of Pep Guardiola and what he is. But before we definitely wrap up, I have to get a dark horse from you, because there's always a little one that kind of gets people going, could they? Would they?
Well, we had Ajax last year. They were the dark horses, came from nowhere. They had to go through the qualifying rounds.
Spurs were almost a bit of a dark horse as well.
I'm going to go for Borussia Dortmund. They've
Ah.
had a good start to the Bundesliga. I'm not saying they're going to win it, but they could just get to maybe the semi-finals or quarter-finals and cause one or two upsets. So I'm going to go with Borussia Dortmund. Good set of players, good coach. They could have a chance.
All right, there you have it. So the Champions League is set to begin very shortly, and we will be all eyes and ears for that one.